You've probably heard that eating enough garlic can literally scrub the plaque out of your arteries. Like your bloodstream is a clogged kitchen sink and garlic is the world's spiciest plumber. It's one of those claims that gets repeated so often it starts to feel like established fact. Grandmothers swear by it. Wellness influencers swear by it even harder. But before you start eating raw cloves like breath mints, let's actually look at what's happening inside your arteries, and what garlic can and can't do once it gets there. Where did this idea even come from? Garlic has been used medicinally for thousands of years. Ancient Egyptian and Greek physicians prescribed it for everything from fatigue to infections. So when modern nutrition science started asking whether specific foods could protect the heart, garlic was already sitting there with a few millennia of folk credibility. That's a powerful head start for a myth. If something's been trusted since the pyramids, it feels like it must be doing something. And to be fair, garlic isn't nothing. It contains a compound called allicin, which forms when you crush or chop a clove. Allicin is the reason garlic smells like it's daring you to eat it, and it's also biologically active. Researchers have studied whether allicin and related sulfur compounds can affect blood pressure, cholesterol, and inflammation. So the interest in garlic isn't fringe pseudoscience. It's a real research question. Here's where it gets interesting. Think of your arteries not like a garden hose that gets gunky and needs a good rinse, but more like a highway system with certain exits that develop potholes over years, sometimes decades. Those potholes are plaque, made of cholesterol, fat, calcium, and inflammatory cells that build up slowly inside the artery wall itself, not just floating around waiting to be flushed out. That's an important distinction, because it means plaque isn't sitting there like sink grease waiting for the right solvent. It's structurally built into the vessel wall. You can't just marinate it away. So does garlic do anything for that process? Researchers have actually tested this directly. Christopher Gardner and colleagues at Stanford ran a well-known clinical trial testing garlic supplements, including raw garlic, against LDL cholesterol levels over several months. The results surprised a lot of garlic believers. None of the forms tested produced a meaningful drop in LDL, the cholesterol most closely tied to artery plaque. Quick decode, because LDL gets thrown around like everyone just knows what it means. Think of LDL cholesterol as a delivery truck that drops packages off along your artery walls whether you asked for them or not. Garlic, in that Stanford trial, did not seem to slow the truck down. Now, before garlic fans start drafting an angry comment, there's more nuance here. Other research, including reviews compiled through the Cochrane collaboration, has looked at garlic's effect on blood pressure specifically, and found modest reductions in some studies. Modest. Not dramatic. Not, reverse your arterial damage, modest. More like, might nudge things slightly in a good direction if you already eat reasonably well, modest. Here's your quotable moment: garlic might turn down the volume a little. It's not turning off the noise. The American Heart Association has been consistent on this for years. They emphasize that no single food, garlic included, functions like a magic eraser for cardiovascular risk. Heart health responds to overall dietary patterns, physical activity, blood pressure management, and not smoking, studied and confirmed over decades of population research, not to any one ingredient working alone. That's a less exciting headline than, "This one vegetable fixes your arteries," but it's the version that's actually held up. So why does the artery cleaning myth persist so hard? Partly because it's satisfying. It gives you a single, simple villain-defeating hero. Eat the pungent food, defeat the clogged pipes, roll credits. Real physiology is messier and slower and doesn't wrap up in one scene. Nuance doesn't trend the way certainty does. There's also a psychological trick at play here, one nutrition researchers talk about often. If a food is strong-smelling, spicy, or intense, we tend to assume it must be doing something powerful inside us. Garlic announces itself. Kale doesn't smell like anything. But intensity of flavor has nothing to do with intensity of physiological effect. Your arteries do not care how confident your breath is. This is general education, not personalized medical advice, and if you have specific concerns about cholesterol, blood pressure, or heart disease risk, that conversation belongs with your doctor or a registered dietitian who can look at your actual numbers and history. What does the emerging research say going forward? Scientists at institutions like the NIH's National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health note that garlic's cardiovascular effects remain an area of ongoing study, particularly around inflammation markers and blood vessel function, sometimes called vasodilation, which is just a fancy way of saying how easily your blood vessels widen to let blood flow through. Some early research suggests garlic compounds may support that widening slightly. It's promising. It's also still being studied, not settled science you should build a health strategy around. So where does that leave garlic? Not useless. Not magic. Somewhere in the very unglamorous middle, which is honestly where most real nutrition science lives. It can be one small, tasty piece of a broader pattern of eating that supports heart health, alongside vegetables, fiber, physical activity, and not smoking. It is not a solvent. It is not a scrub brush. It is not going to outclean a lifetime of habits with a clove and some willpower. Here's the reframe worth remembering. Your body isn't a kitchen sink waiting for the right ingredient to unclog it. It's a system that responds to patterns repeated over years, not single foods eaten with enough conviction. Garlic gets to stay in the story. It just doesn't get to be the whole plot. So here's the truth about garlic and your arteries. It's not the plumber. It's just a pretty good supporting character. Have you ever eaten way more of a superfood than you actually enjoyed because you believed it was undoing something bad? Tell us which food you overdid it on, thinking it was your health cheat code.